Welcome to My Psychedelic Roots, a podcast of conversations with people from a broad swath of lived experience to explore their psychedelic beginnings, or roots, what led them to start using psychedelics, what those early experiences were like, and how those roots have impacted their life's unfolding. My name is Amy Bartlett, and it is my hope that these stories, generously shared by my guests, offer perspective and insight into the lived reality of psychedelic experiencing. Please feel welcome to subscribe and follow the show to get the latest conversations in your podcast feed. And you are always invited to share this episode with others if you feel inspired. And so, as always, whoever, wherever, and whenever you are, welcome. I'm glad you're here. In today's episode, I got to sit down with my friend Ruth Webster, a fellow New Brunswicker, a retired library scientist, and someone with a lifelong curiosity about connection with self and the world around them. In our conversation together, Ruth and I talk about the confusion and isolation she experienced as a child. And then as she was growing up in the 1960s, she encountered psychedelics in her friend group, but she saw them as drugs and never touched them at that time. Her curiosity about psychedelics was not piqued again until 2015 when she began her first training course to learn about holotropic breathwork. And through a number of curious coincidences stemming from the connection she made, she eventually found her way to her first psychedelic experience with Iboga at a retreat center in Mexico a year later. That experience was life-changing for her. And in our conversation, we talk about what she learned about herself, as well as talking a bit about the difficulties of coming back to Earth after her experience. It was a lovely conversation, and one that highlights some of what I so enjoy about knowing Ruth. Her enduring curiosity, her deep trust in her own inner wisdom, and her love of life and the people she crosses paths with. For the listener, Ruth is someone who navigates some physical limitations, so please feel welcome to enjoy finding your audio groove as you listen into our conversation. I always experience Ruth as someone who really enjoys exploring and understanding this human experience she's having. And it was a pleasure getting to sit down and hear how she found her way to the psychedelic space. And so, let's hear more about Ruth's psychedelic roots. Ruth, it's so lovely to be here with you and to be in conversation together.
Yes, likewise.
So as we move into our conversation together, is there anything that you think is important that people should know about you or your background and your life today?
Perhaps that I'm got a professional education. That's the route I took, and of course that was the route that really was the only one that came, given the nature of my family and their focus and importance of education.
Mm-hmm.
So, primarily in the education field, and then the library and information sciences. That was my primary background.
And do you still work in that field?
No.
You're
No.
retired.
I've totally moved on from it. I see there's great things about the education system, but it's unfortunately what I've seen in my own journey. It's based on a faulty foundation. And with anything with a faulty foundation, it's only a matter of time before it crumbles. It doesn't even consider how we take in information. It's based on using the rational, logical part of the brain, and what science and neuroscientists and research is discovering is that absolutely none of the information that we take in, however it comes to us, none of it goes to that part of the brain first.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how you were taking in information as a child. Thinking back to your younger self, how would you describe your way of seeing the world, or what felt true to you as a child?
I was often very puzzled as a very small child like any child, I was naturally inquisitive and curious about everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was in love with life.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when it came to all the adults that are around me, and when we all came together during dinner conversations and stuff like that, and I'd be there during the dinner table, I sat there totally perplexed and feeling like I was there, but I couldn't connect
Hmm.
because I've gotten that they were operating from the headspace,
Mm-hmm.
and my family was very, very much focused on using your head.
Mm-hmm.
That was primary. Emotions,
So were you an emotional child?
yeah, but children are emotional. They operate from the heart
Mm-hmm.
space. They're totally, completely engaged in life, curious about everything.
And so what were some of the primary emotions that you experienced as a child?
I think a lot is sadness
Mm-hmm.
and a feeling of disconnection and not fitting in because I didn't fit in because I wasn't using that part of the brain. So the adults around me weren't in tune at all with
Mm-hmm.
how I was operating and how we children naturally operate. My sense is I felt that profoundly and felt that sense of disconnection, isolation, loneliness. But then it's all fits in with things that I've come to learn through
Yes.
my own journey with the help of psychedelics.
Yeah. So it sounds like there was a lot of loneliness and disconnection in your childhood. What was your relationship to spirituality? Or did you have any kind of spiritual upbringing as a child to find some connection outside of your relationships?
It was all really religion. There wasn't any thought of spirituality back then. I don't know if I hardly heard that word.
Hmm.
It was religion. I think they dismissed spirituality and saw it as being religion and took the two as one. And
Mhm.
I no longer do that.
What was the religion of your household growing up?
We went to church every Sunday and that was it. I'm grateful because religion sometimes is kind of shoved down people's throats. We use that expression. It's kind of pushed on us. And there's a lot of guilt tripping that can happen through that. And I know it has happened to some of my friends. And I'm grateful that that didn't happen in my family. A good family goes to church every Sunday. That's what you do. Anything outside of that, as long as you go to church, and that we appeared as reasonably good people.
Yes. I'm curious, Ruth, I know you grew up in rural New Brunswick. Did you grow up in an environment where psychedelics were ever discussed, either positively or negatively?
They were being used experimentally. For some of my friends, I remember they were doing drugs in high school. And my connection was, okay, let them do it. I'm not having anything to do with that. Nothing. Because for one, it felt that it would be bad and dangerous. And secondly, my sense now is that there was something inside of like, no, no,
And what time period was this?
that was in the late 60s.
How interesting. So, as psychedelics were coming into Western consciousness more fully, it even reached as far as rural
Exactly.
New Brunswick.
Yes, exactly. and the Beatles and some of these rock bands, they used psychedelics. Don't tell me they didn't. It's clear from some of the wording in the song.
Mhm. But it was not for you at that time. It
No,
was something that you weren't gonna try.
nothing. I would have nothing to do with it.
Hmm. And so, thinking about those early experiences in your teenage years where it's like, no drugs, watching these people, good luck to you, not for me. And thinking about your eventual engagement and use of psychedelics, was there a particular moment or conversation or experience that made you think about psychedelics differently?
Yes, I can't say a particular moment. For one, I had had this deep feeling. Somehow, the more I got into spirituality and self discovery,
Mhm.
I began to have this feeling I've got to do drugs. And my only frame of reference for psychedelics, because that term wasn't used then, it was hardly coined then. They didn't have that term. They were just drugs. And I saw them exactly that way, given a medical family, the judgments, the connotation. So my frame of reference was drugs, and I thought, I've got to do drugs. And it made absolutely no sense, none,
Hmm.
because I had no frame of reference for it. And then in February of 2015, felt pulled to do the holotropic breathwork training with
Mhm.
Stan Groff. Part of at the time, it was Groff transpersonal training. During that first module, for the first time in my life, I was hearing them talk about psychedelics.
Hmm.
And they talked about ayahuasca mainly, but different ones were being talked about. And it was all in a context that felt very comfortable and right for me. I felt,
Mm.
yeah, this makes sense. The experimentation, well, one, it wasn't my way of approaching things. At least something like that. I wasn't going to experiment.
What about what people were saying made you curious? When did that curiosity about psychedelics become a curiosity for your interaction with them, potentially?
There was that curiosity started right away that week. I already began to get fascinated, and I started checking out ayahuasca because that was the one that was spoken about. And so I got home, and for the next few months, I was checking out different things, mainly ayahuasca, and nothing came out. And it was the fall of that year. I went to California and met a woman that was from the Ottawa region, and she came in, and I thought, oh my God, there she was. She also was in the training, and she has left. She has left Ottawa, moved, and was on her own journey, traveling throughout the country, throughout North America, just traveling. And I had no idea she'd be there. None. And in she came, and immediately I saw a profound difference in her whole energy, her presence, her face, her body. I just thought, wow, wow. So I got really curious. And then she spoke about Iboga. Look, that was a foreign term to me. It definitely went in one ear and out the other.
Mhm.
So after I got back, I thought, I got to find out what that medicine was. And that was when everything changed. And I looked it up online, and in a flash, it was like, I've got to go. I just knew it. My whole body catapulted itself almost into some kind of journey. Like, I gotta go. I'm going to Mexico. She had gone to Mexico, and I got where she had gone. I thought, okay, I'm going. I've got to.
Hmm.
That's
Mhm.
the beginning of my psychedelics, and who knows where the whole thing's going. It's just fascinating subject for me.
Mhm. And so, are you open to talking a little bit about that first experience in Mexico?
Yeah,
Mhm.
whatever I can say.
So, I'm curious, Ruth, if that first psychedelic experience were a chapter in your life story, what would the title of that chapter be?
A journey into a whole new world.
Mhm. And so maybe I can ask you some questions about that first experience. You went to Mexico
Yeah,
to a retreat center,
yeah.
and maybe you can describe what the trip was like going down there, how you felt. Were you nervous? How was it to know that you were getting on a plane and you were going to go and have your first psychedelic experience?
I didn't have concern. I'd say it was more curiosity. I don't remember that much fear. That wasn't, at least as I reflect back, that wasn't paramount.
Mhm.
Some journeys, like, okay, I know I've got to do it, but I don't want to do it. This was not that way at all. It was much more curiosity.
Mm. And so you arrived at the retreat center. How many people were in ceremony with you?
I was pretty well alone because of how it worked out. Yep.
Wow.
Hard to put a word on it. It was beautiful because I felt totally supported. I just knew they were there for me.
Mhm.
And it was my first time in Mexico, so it was a beautiful introduction to a whole different culture, a whole different language, way of life.
What medicine did you take?
It was simply Iboga, Ibogaine, Iboga.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What was the come up experience like as the medicine was starting to take effect?
really curious. Yeah, to say that's about the only word. I had no idea what to expect. I was fascinated. I came away feeling like I saw my life run through a film.
Mhm. What kinds of things did you see?
Like much of my life, I saw my death and just, and then I felt like it showed me how deeply connected we are with life, with nature. We are a part of it. And I get that now. At the time, that's kind of a foreign concept to the mind. The mind likes to separate itself from nature.
Mhm.
It doesn't see itself as part of it,
Yes.
or at least certainly my mind did not.
And so you felt more connection with nature. And I think about the disconnection that you described in your childhood. I expect that connection might have felt good for you to experience.
Totally natural.
Mm.
And I saw how everything that we create as humans essentially comes from nature in some way. That's where we get all of our ideas and inspiration. I just saw it in ways that I couldn't begin to express in words,
Mhm.
right down to tissue paper. There was a flower, and I saw how the flower itself, the texture of it was so much like tissue paper. It's like, oh my God, that's where we get the idea. It comes from nature. So I've begun to see that so much more that we probably in some way get all of our inspirations from nature itself, the nature of our being, life.
What other moments of connection did you experience?
There was a moment of having it kind of right in my face that as much as I don't want to stand out, I naturally do. I'm still working with that one. And it just showed me a huge box of something like crayons.
Mhm.
That was the way it was illustrated. And there was one crayon, all of them except one with the same color. It's either black, white, something like that. And it just said, "You're the white one or the black one," whatever.
Mhm.
So it just saying, "You naturally stand out." Like in crayons, you can't not.
Hmm.
So that was a big takeaway that I have to say I'm still working with that one.
Sounds like it was some nice validation.
Yeah,
Hmm. Were there any moments that were scary or that were challenging for you in your journey?
there were times that were challenging, nothing in terms of what was really presented, other than probably saying that one that I pointed out, that's been the most difficult. I think the most difficult was coming back from it. I thought and hoped that I'd be able to continue with so much of what I felt, and I couldn't. So that was what was more challenging. And afterwards, having such a beautiful experience and coming out and just trying to engage in life and really come back from it.
Mm. Can I
Yeah.
ask, how long was your experience? Because Iboga can sometimes take quite a long time.
Yeah. It was all night and almost all the next day, right
Wow.
till the next evening.
Were you
Yeah.
physically exhausted by the end of it, or did you feel refreshed, or how did your body feel?
I think more refreshed. I didn't come away exhausted. No, I don't often do that. Some people happens that way, but it rarely happens for me. But back then, tiredness and exhaustion wasn't part of my journey.
Mhm. And in that experience, you were having that experience alone, but with a facilitator or guide or a group of people? How were you taken care of and accompanied in that experience?
I'd say I was so well taken care of. The attention, the things that we did. The next day, I got curious about totem animals, and so that was when I was coming out of it, and like a husband-wife team that supported me. And the next day, I went into a time of looking at totems with her, and it was just wonderful how it all worked.
That's
Now,
beautiful. I'm so glad, Ruth. So tell me a little bit about this coming back to Earth. And you mentioned that it was hard. So the journey itself wasn't very hard for you, but your first journey landing afterwards proved to be a little more difficult.
yeah, I think part of it was hard because of what it had shown me about how I stood out. I I had real issues with that whole thing. So because of my issues with it and then seeing that, like, that's the last thing I wanted.
Why didn't you want to stand out?
Basically, because I had real issues with it.
Was it scary?
I'm not sure what it wasn't outright scary, but it's just like more just a rejection of it for some reason inside. It's like I didn't want that. That's the last thing I wanted to see.
Mm.
I think more because at the time I already had a lot of social things going on, and I thought that would just separate me even more from people. And so
Mm.
it was just my own personal load of baggage around that whole thing. It's hard to just articulate. I don't
Part of
know.
what I'm hearing, or I'm curious if you were scared that it would create more disconnection when you already suffered with so much disconnection as a child.
Perhaps so. Yeah.
Mm. Mhm.
Although at the time I just knew I was pushing it away. I didn't want to see it. It's an underlying fear that
Yes.
I had so lived with that most of my life that I didn't even identify it as fear.
Yeah. And so how have you been working with that piece since?
It was difficult for a long time, and it got reinforced in a second experience the next year with the same medicine. I just knew I got to go back and do it again. So I did, and that one showed me basically the same thing in a very different way, a totally different way. And like, wow. So I'm still working with it, and the second time it put me more in touch with my personal power, which was far beyond something I could even reconcile in terms of how I've been in my own life. It was just such a huge gap between where I felt I was and what the medicine was showing me that it was like,
Very interesting, Ruth. And so how did this first experience that you had compare to what you expected it to be?
I find that really hard to answer because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't ever consider that I'd have things play out like a movie screen. That was, I guess, the number one thing. Wow. I could never comprehend it or imagine that.
Mhm.
I guess that would be the way to answer the question
Mm.
indirectly.
And maybe a follow-up question then. Is there anything that you wish you had known before that first psychedelic experience?
No,
Mm.
no,
Mhm.
I'm just always grateful that I did it and I just followed that inner instinct. I knew that was a medicine I needed to dive into.
Mhm. Looking back, do you think that psychedelics entered your life at exactly the right moment, or do you ever wonder what might have happened if they had come earlier or later in your life?
I'd say they came at exactly the right time. My sense is that my inner being knew, don't do these drugs. That inner feeling of no and staying away from it naturally. I have full confidence that that was bang on because I sense that I could well have had one of those experiences that some people just really never can come back from.
Yes.
Psychosis, any number of things.
Mhm.
I think there would not have been the infrastructure to support me in what I was going through. I would have gone through hell. Psh, that's totally what I feel so profoundly.
Mm.
And I'm trusting the accuracy of that.
I'm so
Oh,
glad that you were so well supported for that first experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my suspicion is the medicines were keeping me away. They have their own way of working. They work in mysterious ways, but then life does too.
Mhm.
And they're such an integral part. They are part of life.
Yes. And so, Ruth, what is your relationship with psychedelics today?
one of tremendous respect. There's a lot of power. And I think they're one of the few things that can bypass parts of our mind that nothing else can do that so exquisitely. Connect right to the heart center. The mind just gets put aside, like put on a shelf now. And there's sadness too, because I think I'm finding more and more that some of these ancient cultures, they use these for thousands of years. And we come in with our Western mindset. It's almost like we pushed all of that aside and no, we're the only ones that know. So I think there's a lot of arrogance on our part. And I did it within myself because I bought into that culture, hook, line, and sinker. And now the more I pull away from it, I think I access a deeper truth. The ego separates itself from anything, everything.
Yes.
Differentiation. We found thousands of ways to find how different we are. So as powerful as they are for helping us get awareness of really seeing authentic parts of ourselves and some of what we've done to ourselves, the more I know that the total flip side, they're wonderful and can be extremely harmful when not used and people aren't supported. And we've seen that.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate how you described your relationship with psychedelics today and how they bring you into connection. And again, just thinking back to what you longed for as a child and the kind of healing that you've been able to access and corrective experiences you've been able to access in your relationship with psychedelics. It's really beautiful and inspiring.
Thank you. And I can really feel that that's had a tremendous impact going into an expanded state of consciousness that way, bypassing the mind. Holotropic Breathwork was wonderful, and it is. And like anything and everything, it too has its limitations. Everything does. There's the shadow and light to everything.
Yes.
Everything.
And so as we wrap up our conversation today, Ruth, I'm curious if you had a piece of advice for someone who was moving into their first experience, what might that advice be?
To really feel that they're totally 100% supported in their experience in every way possible, leading into it. If there's anything that has them feel uncomfortable and something has them bring a question mark, I think I'd just say you might look at that. Maybe your body is telling you something. Don't just rush in head first.
That's really wise advice. To listen to yourself, listen to your body, move gently, intentionally, thoughtfully. I really appreciate that, Ruth.
Knowing that many of us aren't taught in our societies to listen to your gut feeling. Listen to that. Maybe there's some accuracy. Maybe there's something in that. Yeah.
Well, Ruth, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to listen. It's been a real pleasure hearing your story and learning about your experiences of connection and disconnection, of exploration. Thank you for connecting with me and with us through your words. It means a lot.
And thank you for the opportunity and just really hearing what I had to offer.
Thank you.
Thank you.